What is going on, guys? It is Venom Surge here, and welcome back to another episode of Elder Scrolls Online. Today's episode is actually not part of the series where we check out specific sets. This is actually a build that is based on what we used to have back in the beginning of Elder Scrolls Online. Now, before we get to any of this, in my last episode, if you guys happen to missed it, I am going to be doing some major channel changes. I am going to be only doing Elder Scrolls Online videos on this channel from now on. If you guys were some of the people who like to watch the other videos such as the Minecraft, God of War, Destiny, that will now be on a second channel that I am making very soon. So those of you who only came here for Elder Scrolls Online, well, now it is only Elder Scrolls Online. This build has many names for itself, but I like just to call it the damage support role. The main focus is to do DPS like normal. The difference is when we're so optimized nowadays, when our healer or a tank goes down, if you guys don't get them up right away, you're screwed, because we've optimized for just DPS or just healing and buffing. So this is a hybrid in a way where you mainly focus DPS, but if a healer happens to go down, I can substitute as a healer, and there's different levels that you can decide, but as you continue focusing more healer, you will end up losing out on DPS. The current way I have this made, I can hit for about 55 to 57k DPS, which I will show you guys later in the episode, while having a couple heal and buff skills on the back bar. So for our sets, the first set we are using is Mother Sorrow. We are using 2 daggers of Mother Sorrow. Both of these are precise, one with Absorb Mag enchant and the other with a weapon damage enchant. Mother Sorrow comes from Deshawn. You can just farm this overland or you can buy it off of the traders. The first piece gives you max mag, crit, and then a freaking big piece of crit. So the Mother Sorrow is 2 daggers on the front bar, and then 3 infused spell damage jewelry. On the back bar, we are using a perfected Maelstrom Resto Staff. This gives us crit chance, and then when we critically strike with our Pixie Dust skill, you restore 558 Magicka. It cannot occur from simultaneous crit strikes. We are a crit build, and this is also how we can get some good healing as well. This is powered with an Absorb Magicka enchant. This doesn't exactly matter. We can go over the other options as well. The perfected version comes from Vet. You don't have to get perfected. You can just get the normal. All you'll be missing is that crit chance. For our second set, we are using Elemental Catalyst. This comes from Stone Garden, and it is a light armor set. We are using Divines across the entire body with Max Mag enchant. This gives you max mag, crit chance, max mag. Whenever you deal flame, shock, or frost damage, you apply a stack of those weaknesses for 3 seconds on the enemy. Each stack increases their crit damage taken by 5%. They can only have 1 stack of each type at a time. So basically, the enemy can take 15% more crit damage. I don't know if this counts towards the crit cap. I believe it does. So I have made this build perfectly, so that way you can get it right up to 125 crit damage if you're including this. If not, we can have some other swap outs to get more crit damage. For our monster set, we are using Zons. This comes from my favorite dungeon, Scalecaller Peak. You gotta do this on Vet to get the monster helm though. The helm is medium, the shoulder is light. Both are divines with max mag. The first piece gives you crit chance, and then when you deal crit damage with a light or heavy attack, you have a 33% chance to tether to your enemy for 10 seconds within 8 meters. It deals 690 damage every second and increases by 100% per tick, and applies the burning status effect. It can occur every 20 seconds and scales off of our spell damage. If you don't have the Scalecaller Peak DLC, you could just run a 2 1 pieces of more crit chance, so Slime Craw would be a great example for that, or you can just run full Slime Craw to get that minor berserk if your healer isn't giving it to you. If that crit damage from Catalyst doesn't count, then Order's Wrath would be better. It gives you another 8% crit damage that's unnamed, and so that'll help push you up. You won't be fully at 125, but you'll be very close. if the catalyst does count towards it, you are perfectly at 125 when they have all 5 stacks. For the Maelstrom staff, you can also do the Masters if you want to be using the Grand Healing skill, which also restores Magicka and stamina, but it also gives those resources to your group members as well. Now, you don't have to use Elemental Catalyst. The point of this style, the damage support class, is you focus damage with your monster helm and your weapon jewelry and back bar, but you use one set that is a support set. This is technically more damage focused, however that crit damage taken is applied to all of your allies as well, so the allies that you have will be dealing 15% more crit damage to the enemy that has this effect. You could also do worms. This will give more mag recovery to your entire group. That is very nice. We do struggle with mag if we don't get it from any synergies. You could also do Hall of Fame Thirst. This is based on crit chance. Whenever you heal or deal damage, you restore Magicka and get minor vitality. You could also do Hedes Hearth, which allows you to gain health every 2 seconds and reduce the cost of those abilities every 12 seconds. So there's some options here. Basically, you want to have some type of support set alongside your DPS stuff. So we are 6 light and then 1 medium on the helmet. Back bar, really, it just needs to be any resto staff. These are just nice because we are using some of these skills. Now for the stats on the front bar, this is what we are looking at. Feel free to pause the video to look. Now we are doing 64 attributes into Magicka, and we are using the Shadow Mundus Stone. This is the stats on the back bar. This is what we're looking like on the front bar. Our spell damage does go up a little bit more with our weapon enchant, but not by much. And like I said, we do end up getting 125 crit damage. And I actually forgot to have my food on, so that's actually what our max mag looks like. Now for the consumables, there are many Magicka focused foods. The Clockwork Citrus is very expensive, but it gives you a bunch of resources. Witch Mothers is a good balance between all 3. However, I prefer using Ghastly Eyeball. If you don't have mag recovery issues, you could do the Banana Bunny Hash. This gives you more health and max mag as well. For our potion, we only really need the Tri-Stat potion. We actually get all the buffs we need, but if you wish, you can also run the spell power potions to make sure that these buffs stay up at all times. Now for our skills, in the Fighters Guild we are using Camouflaged Hunter. We do not pop this. If you're in PvP it does help detect enemies, but we are using it because while slotted you gain Major Savagery and Prophecy, increasing our crit chance. If we are flanking we also gain Minor Berserk for 5 seconds. Next up, in the Gravelord skill line, we are using Detonating Siphon. This doesn't cost anything. The other morph gives you recoveries. This does extra damage, so I chose this. Basically, you suck on a corpse and you deal 18,500 damage over 20 seconds. This creates a tether, so anyone on the tether or around me gets that damage. When the siphon ends, the corpse explodes for another 6k damage to everyone around it. While slotted, our damage done is increased by 3%. If you have recovery problems, you could do the other morph. It does shock damage and then it gives you 150 recovery on each resource. Back into the Fighters Guild line, we're using Barbed Trap. This costs stamina, but that helps us balance out our resources. It takes it 1.5 seconds to arm and lasts for 20 seconds. It does a 1600 bleed damage for 20 seconds, but the main thing is we also use it to get Minor Force, which increases our crit damage by 10%. Back up into the Gravelord skill line, we are using Ricochet Skull. This is our spammable. It does about 8k flame damage. Every third cast of this ability deals 20% more damage and bounces up to 2 times to other nearby enemies. Pay attention to what damage types we're doing. Our flame comes from here, and next up, another flame skill. Stalking Blast Bones, also in the Gravelord skill line. You hit this, after 2.5 seconds, you cause the skeleton to run and explode at the target, and it deals 12.4k flame damage to all enemies nearby. This actually gets very nasty. This thing hits hard when we're buffed up. Every second it spends chasing the target, it increases the explosion damage by up to 50% more. It also creates a corpse on death for us to suck. On one of my fights here, I was just testing around and he actually ended up hitting for 34,000 damage, but on average he's hitting for about 20 in that fight to 23 in this fight. It is very effective. Next up in the Fighters Guild line, we are using Flawless Dawnbreaker. This does 11,000 damage up front, 16,000 physical damage over 6 seconds, and then after activating, it increases our spell damage by 300 for 20 seconds. And it's a fairly cheap ultimate, so this is nice to have on the front bar. In case things are going down quickly, you can just pop this to finish them off, and it is a conal effect. On the back bar, this is where we get slight healer and DPS skills. First up, we have Radiating Regeneration, also known as Pixie Dust. This costs very cheap magicka and lasts for 10 seconds. 3 people, whether it be you or 3 other allies, gain 13,000 healing over 10 seconds. This can be swapped out with other stuff. I'll give you some options later. Back into the Grave Ward skill line, we are using Skeletal Arcanist. Now this is an option. If you want more AoE, he is better. If you want to focus down on a boss, the Stam Morph is actually better. It lasts long and it increases its damage against single target attacks. When you hit this, it is a criminal act. Be careful where you use this. That was the same with the Stalking Blast Bones. I forgot to mention that. He attacks every 2 seconds and deals 1600 shock damage to all enemies. He also creates a corpse on death. Into the Mages Guild. The one sucky thing with Necros is they do not have a source of sorcery. So we get it from Degeneration in the Mages Guild skill line. It does 21,000 magic damage over 24 seconds and it's fairly cheap. And then while this is going, you gain Brutality and Sorcery for the duration. So keep this up at all times. Next up is another flex bot. Currently I am using Combat Prayer. This does 10k healing in a carpet in front of you, and it grants you and anybody hit by it Minor Berserk and Resolve, which helps them survive and deal more damage. Back into the Grave Ward skill line, we are using Unnerving Boneyard. This does 17,000 frost damage over 20 seconds. Now we got our frost, and the Skeletal Arcanist does our shock, so we have the 3 elements that we need for the elemental catalyst. But while this is active, it also applies Major Breach to enemies inside. If you cast this on a corpse, it deals 50% more damage. If there's an ally standing in the graveyard, they can synergize for 10.4k damage instantly and heal for the damage done. Very powerful. For our ultimate, I am currently using Renewing Animation to help get people back up in case we have to go on this back bar to help the group survive. This is very expensive, but you resurrect up to 3 allies at a target location, and you use Restore 5,300 magicka and stamina for each ally you attempt to resurrect. It doesn't mean they have to accept it, and they can die instantly, whatever. Just popping this on a dead body of an ally, you get those resources back. Now for the flex bots, you could do Summoner's Armor to help you last longer for yourself, but that doesn't really help your group. Remote Totem is nice. It gives minor protection to allies and it fears enemies. You could also do Empowering Grasp to help CC enemies, but also let your group deal more damage. In the Living Death, you can also get a full heal here. I would do that instead of Pixie Dust if you're running the Master's Resto Staff. Intensive Mender is also great for healing low health targets. Braided Tether is also great. In the Resto Tree, you can also do Illustrious Healing. That's an amazing skill that can be better off for big groups. If you're doing a trial, I would not use this and I would slot this instead so you can get everybody with the healing instantly. If your group is doing good, I would get either Pestilent or Glacial Colossus. I prefer Glacial because I love stunning the enemies, but Pestilent does deal more damage overall, so I would do one of those to help your group get by the enemies faster. Now, if you're dealing very well and you don't really need these extra heals, you could throw Consuming Trap on here to get more DOTs out. But honestly, this is kind of part of being this support class, is making sure that if things go badly, you're there to help stop that. I would also maybe throw on energy orbs, that way you can heal people and give synergies to other people. Now into the CP. For the green CP, it doesn't really matter. I'm using Steed's Blessing for more movement speed outside of combat. Treasure Hunter's nice to get better loot and treasure chests. Gifted Rider helps me move faster, and War Mount's nice, so that way you don't have stamina while sprinting in outside of combat. In the blue tree, I am using Fighting Finesse to get more crit damage up. Backstabber for more crit damage when you are flanking. If you're in a proper group, the tank should face the boss away from you, or you should move yourself around to the backside of the boss so you can get more damage off. We're going up here to Deadly Aim to get more single target attack damage. You could do AoE if you're doing large groups of adds. That would be very beneficial. We are very AoE focused, but that also depends on the morphs you choose. Like I said, the Skeletal Archer is better than the Arcanist if you're doing a single target attack. And then Thaumaturge to increase our DOTs, which is what we are mainly made out of. Into the red tree, I'm using Fortified for more armor, Boundless Vitality for more health. Coming over here to Siphoning Spells to gain 1500 Magicka each time you kill an enemy, but you have to get the kill. If somebody steals it from you, you don't get the Magicka. And then down here we're getting Expert Evasion, so that way when we roll dodge, it can be free every 30 seconds. Now onto the passives. I'm only going to cover the passives that really matter for this build. Everything does matter, so eventually get everything you can, but these are the ones you might want to focus on. In the Grave Ward line, I would get absolutely everything. Reusable Parts basically puts your pets on half the price each time they die, which is very good for sustain. Death Knell is the Necro's version of an Execute. We don't actually have an Execute. It's through this passive. When enemies get low health, each Grave Ward ability slotted, we gain more crit chance when they're low health. So on our front bar, we gained another 24% crit chance. If we were to slot more stuff, such as the Arcanist or the Boneyard, it can get to 100% crit chance, but I'm not pushing that. I want to get the passives from the Fighter's Guild, which you'll see later. Dismember is also nice. We gain more penetration while a Grave Ward ability is active. Having your pet counts towards that. Boneyard counts towards that. And then Rapid Rot, it did get nerfed, but it gives 10% increased damage to DOTs. In the Bone Tyrant, we aren't really using any of these unless you swapped them out for one of these support skills. So these three won't really matter if you're not using it, but Last Gasp gives you more max health, which is always nice. In the Living Death line, if you have a negative effect on you, your healing done is increased by 8%. If you have a Living Death ability slotted, which you may not, if you're using the ulti on the back bar like I am, it does work. It gives me the reverse of our Execute. So when a ally is low health, I gain more crit chance for healing abilities. Corpse consumption is amazing. Each time you use an ability on a corpse, you generate 10 ultimate every 16 seconds. Undead Confederate is also amazing. While you have your Skeletal Mage up, all of our recoveries are increased by 200. In the Dual Wield line, we want to get Dual Wield Expert. This increases our spell damage by 6% for our offhand weapon damage. And then also get Twin Blade and Blunt. This gives you more crit chance for each dagger that you are holding, which we are using 2. In the Restro tree, Essence Drain is very nice to get major mending when you heavy attack. Restoration Expert's also nice to gain more healing when allies are low health. Cycle of Life is amazing for our sustain. This allows us to get 30% more Magicka when we heavy attack with a Resto Staff. And then Resto Master is also nice to gain 5% more healing from Resto Staff spells. Since we are mainly light armor, you want to focus all of this. We gain less effectiveness from snares and reduce the cost of sprint. Magic recovery is increased and reduces the cost of Magicka abilities. Gain more spell resistance, more crit chance, and more penetration. We are using one piece of medium, so I would get dexterity for more crit damage. Windwalker is kind of nice, but we don't have that many stam stuff. We're not really sneaking, so this isn't that important. Agility is also nice, so we get more spell damage. And then athletics is also nice to gain more movement speed. In the Fighters Guild, the reason why we use 3 Fighter Guild abilities is because of Slayer. We get 9% more spell damage for these things being slotted. And because they're slotted, whenever we kill an enemy, we gain 3 ultimate. But just like the Magicka and the CP, we have to get the kill. Because we are using a Mage's Guild line, Mage Adept is nice to reduce the cost of the ability. It increases the duration here, and we gain more max mag. And we also gain in power, so all these are very nice. The Undaunted line is also nice, that way when you synergize you gain more resources and you just get more max resources for each type of armor equipped. We are a Khajiit. This is also to help us get more crit damage. In the Feline Ambush we get 12% more crit damage. It also does help with sneak. We gain max resources and resource recoveries. It is also important to get your alchemy line up so you can get medicinal use. This makes your potions last 30% longer, so that way the buffs stay up in 100% of the time. Okay, so now for the rotation. Because of the change, this is in the update where the DOTs last for twice as long. So these things last longer, which means the rotation will be different in the actual game, but the idea is still the same. So you want to keep your buffs up. Drink your potion, keep your potion up. Keep him up. Keep degeneration up so that way you gain your spell power if you're not using potions. The graveyard allows him to be debuffed so that way he has less armor. On your front bar, Beast Trap gets your crit damage up. When there's a body on the ground, either from him or from Blast Bones, siphon it. So this is the tether. If I run into him, he's taking the tether's damage. Well, if he's standing next to the body, then he takes tether damage. Your Blast Bones is spawned where you're at, and then it runs to it and explodes. So like I said, the rotation is going to be different. I just kind of start getting into the groove of it. I don't have a full rotation, but you just want to make sure that your DOTs stay up and then just spam your spammables like crazy. When you're on your front bar though, you want to make sure you're doing Blast Bones, skill, skill, Blast Bones, skill. Even though I just did the wrong skill, you still want to do 2 skills, Blast Bones, 2 skills, Blast Bones. So when I start going here, it looks a little something like this. So I'll actually use Beast Trap to cancel early, so that way I hit Beast Trap, do my back bar DOTs, and then I'm back on the front. And that's just once. Make sure you keep your siphon up. And then now I'm just staying on the front bar until Beast Trap is at about 3 to 2 seconds. I'll hit Beast Trap, reset the back bar stuff, go back to the front bar and continue going. And each time I go to the front bar, the siphon should be about ready. We should be on the back so we deal more crit damage, but as we're doing each type of damage, he is getting more crit damage built up from the elemental catalyst set. Alright, so I'm going to do a quick parse on this dude here to show you guys how the thing does on average. Let's take a look at our DPS. So we got 57.9, basically 58k here. As you can see, our stocking blast bones is actually the highest damaging thing, and it actually did 60k on one of its biggest hits, 40k on some of the ricochet skulls. So our mag is about 37k effectively. Now this is with all of his stats, but this is kind of what we're looking like, and as you can see, effectively we're basically at 125 crit damage. We do end up boosting up to 150, but you can also take a look at the graph here. So we did actually hit some almost 100Ks, it looks like. We were 30 damage off from 99999. Now it does feel a little bit more laggy for some reason, like it's not being as smooth with some of the skills. Here's my weaving time. Apparently I'm pretty tight with some of this stuff, but I did actually have one of the boneyards I hit and it showed the duration for it, but it never actually spawned, so I must have cut it off way too early here. But yeah, so this is our DPS, and that's not bad considering we are technically losing out on some skills. We're not using the 2 skills on the back bar. This is a good DPS set, but it's more focused for the group since the entire group will be doing more crit damage to the enemy. Now we're going to take this into normal Castle Thorn. This doesn't have enough healing to sustain itself fully. This is just supposed to help support your group while dealing damage at the same time. So if your healers went down, you can try to heal them. Now in here, it's just going to be me, so I will have Miri helping me out. She is in good gear and has a good setup, so she should be able to keep me alive, and then you can kind of get an idea for how my survivability is. But I want to keep him up. We'll just jump in, debuff the enemies, and let him do his stuff, and then we'll just get some AoEs going. Want to make sure we can get our buffs, and I like using the combat prayer because it gives me that armor buff as well as the minor berserk. Although it's only for 10 seconds, so it's more worth it if you're doing big explosive damage. So like for this next group, I had to buff up here. Send blast bones in, get that buffed, get my crit damage. There's a lot of things that we can do here, but now the other nice thing is when you get a lot of dead bodies, you can automatically cast your siphon body. You can suck this next body and it'll cause that explosion there each time. So you can deal, if there's a lot of bodies on the ground and you're still attacked by a lot of adds, do your blast bones every 2 skills, but you can keep up. If there's enough bodies, you can just spam your siphon, your body siphon, and then spam your blast bones, and so basically you're dealing a large amount of explosive AoE damage up front that'll just wipe people down. And because we are dual wield, if you have the stam sustain, you can also do your spin to win skill. So we're just going to do this boss here, so make sure to get your buffs going. And I actually like to use my tri-stat just because we have all the buffs we need, so make sure to keep your buffs up. And he is doing a lot of damage, so if we need, we can use our pixie dust and get our stuff going here so that way we can survive. Because that is the point. It is not just all about Miri. We can do some survival things and buff ourselves as well if we need to. If Miri goes down, which she's not really taking a lot of damage as much as I am, but if she were to go down, then it wouldn't really be much of a problem because we can help buff our non-existent team. That got a little sketchy there. As you can see, that staff slam down is also amazing. I mean, it does 10k healing up front. So like for these guys, just spam blast bones and spam the body siphon and they just die like crazy. So when your ulti is ready, make sure to use that. If you're not in much of a big group, you could just use a bigger ulti like some of the other options, but I prefer to just keep that revive ulti on the backbar, so that way it's as if you guys were in a group. Oh, we actually just died right when he almost finished it. That was very close though. Let's see how his health was. He got down to 5% health right at the end there. So I just needed to be a bit more careful there. I guess I got a little too offensive, but I mean, that is the point though. We can't do it by ourselves. We still are a DPS, but we are helping Miri out by buffing our teammates and by dealing with the bosses. In that scenario, the combat prayer was definitely nice, a big burst heal and those buffs to help survive. I also might have maybe put on summoner's armor to help my resistance, or maybe the remote totem, because that'll affect me and my non-existent group members. Empowering grasp, I mean, that would also be great. There was tons of ads in there. Immobilize them, deal more damage to them. So there's tons of ways you can kind of throw this around, but the idea is all DPS front bar. If you need, you can do some DPS back bar stuff too. Depending on your class, you might even not need to do any DPS on the back bar and just go full heal mode on back here. It's similar to PvP builds, but we're still focused towards the group. And now for the outfit. For the helmet, we are using the medium Moongrave Fane helmet. For the chest, we are using the Dragon Guard Cuirass in the heavy weight. For the shoulders, we are using medium Fargrave Guardian. For the hands, we are using light Imperial Gloves number 1. For the belt, we are using the medium New Moon Priest. For the legs, we are using the heavy Dark Brotherhood Greaves. For the feet, we are using the light Khajiit Shoes number 2. For the dagger in the right hand, we are using the Draugr Dagger. And the dagger in the left hand, we are using the Telvanni Dagger. The rest of staff, we are using the Sunspire Staff. For that gold color, it is actually Bloodroot Wine. It looks red, but it's actually gold. So it is the lighter red of these selections here. And for the darker red, we are using Red Diamond Red. This is because sadly with the breastplate, if I change everything else here, the cloth covering the bicep is going to be red no matter what. So the Red Diamond Red was the closest thing I could find that matches that color. So I'll go over the color slots for you again. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I am trying to bring back that old style of having the couple damage support builds. I know we can get pretty high DPS, but seeing as Zos is wanting us to lower the high-end DPS, maybe it's time to start bringing back more support DPS to get the overall group numbers up rather than being carried by the high DPS players. If you guys enjoyed the video, please like and comment and let me know if you guys have any other build suggestions or ideas. I am wanting to do another version of this, but more focused on Stam, because this is more mag and healer focused. The Stam tend to be more the brawler tanky type, so that way they can help replace the tank if the tank goes down. Like I said, if you guys want to see my other content, it will now be on my other channel that should be up soon, hopefully. I'll let you guys know, but from now on it's just going to be ESO videos from here. So if you guys would like to see ESO videos, any build ideas, please subscribe and join the Venom Syndicate. I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I will see you guys next time.